Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire in the SBN Small Business Network podcast. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we have a very special guest. She is a nutrition and fitness coach, Lisa Franz. How you doing today, Lisa?
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to speak with you today.
Yes, I think we're going to have an amazing conversation here today.
Agreed.
So, number one question that everybody's probably wondering, who is Lisa Franz?
Well, so that is a big question. Well, I am, as you mentioned, a nutrition and fitness coach, but that's not fully who I am. I am originally from Germany. I'm 35 years old. I haven't lived in Germany since 2009, though. That is when I went on a trip around the world and kind of got stuck in New Zealand, which is where I lived afterwards for about 10 years until 2019. And then in 2019, I started traveling the world again and wanted to explore a bit more. And since then, all in all, I have been to 53 countries of this beautiful, wonderful world and continue to explore more. And while I'm doing that, I'm also a digital nomad, so I can work from anywhere as a nutrition and fitness coach, as you already mentioned. And my desire to work as a nutrition and fitness coach or to help people lose body fat, gain muscle, achieve recomposition of their body and a better relationship with food, that's really come from personal struggles, because I too, like so many people out there, have gone through many diets and just always thought or felt very restricted. I felt like there's got to be a better way than starving yourself 5 days of the week and then binging 2 days and feeling guilty afterwards, or there's got to be a better way of going on vacation and then coming back 5 pounds heavier. And so once I had found how I can actually make both work, so enjoying life, traveling around the world, being social, and so on, while also achieving and maintaining a body that I love. I just knew I wanted to make that my mission in life, to teach other people that food is something that can help you enjoy life and not something where you have to feel guilty about, or something that makes you sick, or something that gives you more anxiety.
Awesome. What exactly is a digital nomad and how did you become one?
So I guess a digital nomad is just simply a fancy term that people used even before COVID for someone that can work from anywhere. I think through COVID or through the pandemic, many people have kind of converted into potential digital nomads without taking advantage of that. For me personally, it simply means I am not a resident to any country of this world per se. I have a German citizenship. I have the allowance to live in New Zealand whenever I want, and I have a current visa for Bolivia, which is where I'm at right now. But I don't necessarily own property, or don't live in a house that I own. I don't have a car, etc. So I can pretty much just pack up and leave whenever I want. And a lot of people at first, when they hear that, they think it sounds, well, how is that even possible? Or they think, oh, that sounds cool, I want to do that too. But I would honestly say that probably only very few people would truly enjoy this kind of lifestyle, because it does require you to be quite a minimalist and make new friends or new connections regularly, and just, I guess, a lot of uncertainty, which I also enjoy at the same time, as it gives me a little bit of anxiety sometimes, but it helps me continue to grow and grow and grow and grow.
How did you become one then?
Well, sorry, second part of your question. So I guess after high school, or once I moved to New Zealand, I started my bachelor's degree in exercise science, health promotion, and nutrition. I've always been fascinated with the human body and anatomy and physiology. And when I finished that bachelor's degree, I didn't really know what to do with that. I just knew I didn't want to be a personal trainer. I didn't want to be a PE teacher, so I was kind of stuck. And I actually joined the New Zealand police for several years. And that was super interesting. I learned a lot about humanity, learned a lot about myself, but it was never really my passion. And even while I was at work, I was already thinking about how to help people with their training, how to, giving advice to friends and so on with regards to nutrition. So at some point, I just realized A, the shift work as a police officer is getting to me mentally and physically, and B, my true passion really is in exercise and nutrition. And so I decided, even while I was in the police, still to build up an online business. Well, at first I didn't actually work for myself. I just started working for a company located in Seattle, Washington, and they just online everything online started giving me some nutrition clients, and I learned about the systems of like how to have and acquire nutrition clients, how to connect with them on a weekly basis or even more often, and how how you can essentially work as an online nutrition coach. And at the same time, I also got my master's online, just so that I would also feel even more confident as a coach going out on my own. So by the time I left the New Zealand police, I was already more or less working part-time as a nutrition coach, or basically sort of up to what it would be considered part-time. And then within a few months after leaving the police, I actually built up to full-time work with this company. And then fast forward another year and a half or so, I felt confident enough to start my own business. So in 2021, now coming up to, oh no, actually exactly this month, it will be 4 years that I've started my business, nutrition coaching and life, and have brought on a couple of women since then to help me as well, but everything remotely, like even the ladies that work for me. 2 of them live in the US, 1 of them lives in Canada, and I have met them before, but only once. So yeah, everything online. It's truly beautiful what you can do with the net these days, but of course, sometimes it also feels a little bit lonely. So it's nice that I can connect with other people in the industry or another industry such as yours through podcasting and other networking events.
That's awesome. You mentioned you visited 53 countries. Which one's your favorite and why?
That's really tricky to say. I think I have to distinguish between like visiting for a week or a vacation and putting your feet up doing nothing, and visiting for like a little bit longer stay and living. So I do love the Mediterranean countries like Greece and Italy. I think they're absolutely wonderful for cultural experiences. Their food is amazing, but I don't speak Greek or Italian. I do speak English, but neither of the other two. And there's something about their lifestyle that I still wouldn't want to live there. Whereas other countries such as Mexico or Indonesia or Bali more specifically, I could live there like even more permanently. And now Bolivia has actually, I'm really enjoying where I'm at right now too. So I would say those 3 for long-term stays, and more like the Mediterranean countries for like a shorter term stay.
I've heard you talk about a trip to Thailand giving you a rock bottom moment with your nutrition.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was sort of like the moment that I realized, or where I just really went on my journey, my hunt for how to navigate nutrition properly. So I was on my honeymoon with my husband at the time in Thailand, and I had completed a really hard workout in the morning. I was doing CrossFit at the time, and we were going to this food court to find some breakfast, and I looked around and literally started crying because I couldn't see anything that I was quote unquote allowed to eat. So something was deep fried, which I wouldn't eat. Something had like rice with it, and I wouldn't eat too many carbs. And the next thing had sugar with it. And so I was just like, what can I eat here? Like, I had placed so many food rules upon myself, and that I honestly just broke down and cried because my body wanted some food. And so from that point onwards, I was like, I need to actually like approach this from like a scientific perspective and find people that have achieved what I wanted to achieve, which was a nice looking body, but at the same time living a little bit of a flexible life. And I came across an article by a CrossFitter at the time, and her name was Nicole Capurzo. And this article was titled "How Donuts Gave Me Abs and an 80 kg Snatch." So a snatch is, for those of you listening who don't know, is a very heavy lift. And I was like, I want all 3 of these things. I want a donut, I want to have abs, and I want to be really strong. And so I read the article, and in this article, she's essentially explaining how weight loss or gain really just comes down to calories in, calories out. Yes, of course, food quality matters. And yes, certain diets like keto, etc., work, but they all just work because they go or put you into a caloric deficit, so to speak. So technically speaking, you don't have to feel guilty for eating anything as long as you can make it fit into your food budget, and as long as you sort of have the right distribution of protein, carbs, and fats. And so once I read that, I did some more digging and was like, is this really true? Because in my mind, I had this belief of like, this food is good, this food is bad. So like any carb in my eyes was bad. Anything with sugar was bad, like was going to make me fat no matter how big the quantity or not. And when I read more about the chemistry, the biochemistry, and the physics of certain foods, and I found out that it doesn't technically matter if I eat 200 calories from rice or if I eat 200 calories from nuts, which I thought was healthy. Like technically both of that is just energy for my body. And that was so eye-opening for me, because I just felt free after that. I was like, are you telling me I can actually have a brownie and a glass of wine on date night with my partner or my husband, if I really want to, and I don't need to feel guilty about it if I make it fit into my calories? Are you telling me I can, if I really want to, have like cereal or bread for breakfast? Is that okay? And so yeah, since then it was so liberating, because honestly, I'm someone, I love enjoying life. I love appreciating life for all the beautiful things of it. And I just think that the majority of people, myself included, in the past, we don't know how to deal with moderation or how to have things in moderation. So just learning that essentially it comes down to the quantity and to being consistent with what you're doing was really a complete game changer for me, and has been for so many of my clients as well.
Nice. How much do you think like these cookie cutter systems that people are coming up with and promoting is affecting like people's like knowledge on like nutrition and the subject?
Yeah, it's quite sad, to be honest. I mean, I think, of course, if someone does absolutely nothing, sometimes a cookie cutter approach can be better than doing nothing. Like I have all empathy and almost admiration for anyone who wants to better themselves, and often we just don't know better. We're pitched this thing or see an ad and see the results, and so it looks enticing, and it might be at a lower price point, so you go for it. So honestly, I don't blame anyone who does give that a try. The sad thing about that is that they very rarely come with the educational perspective, and they're not tailored to you specifically. So, they're probably going to give everybody in the same group, or everybody who just signs up for weight loss, almost the same calorie goal, whether you are 5'11" or 4'11", and whether you move 5 times a week or only 3 times per week or so. So that's unfortunate, because of course the person that actually would be able to see progress with more calories feels super restricted, potentially develops a bad relationship with food, just feels like they're a failure because they can't stick with it because it's too low. And sometimes those programs can even be quote unquote damaging, in the sense that they don't tell people how to exit that weight loss program. They just say, okay, you reached your goal, well done, we'll see you next spring if you want to do another cut, type of thing. But what results from that is that people often just stay at really low calories, and if you don't reverse your calories back up to a maintenance level, you will see metabolic adaptation, and your hormones will take a hit. So eventually that means what used to be a calorie deficit for you, what used to allow you to lose weight, now is your maintenance. And then, so what happens if you want to lose weight again? You have to drop that lower. What happens if you want to lose weight again? You have to drop that even lower. So that's why sometimes women come to me and they're like, oh, I've been trying to lose this weight forever. I'm only eating, 1,200 calories. How is this possible that I'm actually gaining weight or not seeing any progress? And that's just because they're so metabolically adapted, or their hormones have taken such a big hit. So it's really, really important that at the end of any dieting phase, whether that's a cookie cutter dieting phase or whether that's with a coach, that we actually go through something which we call a reverse diet. So just slowly and gradually bringing your calories back up to the same level that your body actually is burning, so maintenance calories. Because the other danger or the other mistake that many people make at the end of a dieting phase or at the end of a program like that might just be like, okay, I've reached my goal. I'm going to go back to the previous way that I was eating beforehand. And naturally, your body is going to send you increased hunger signals so that you actually put more weight back on. And the way that you were eating beforehand led to you being in a place that you didn't want to be at, like led to you being overweight or whatever it is. So how can we assume that this is how you, like, just by going back there, you're going to see different results this time? Like that doesn't work. But people just don't know how to find that middle ground of like what's actually a portion that I should be eating, what's actually the right amount of protein I should be eating. They're just following that meal plan or following the specific macro count without actually knowing how can I implement that when I go to a restaurant? How can I implement that when I am on vacation with my family and I am at an all-you-can-eat buffet? So this is why I think, yeah, with training, generic programs might be absolutely okay for the majority of people, unless you want to compete at something or you're very advanced in the gym. But when it comes to nutrition, I think it almost always has to be looked at from a very individual perspective, because everybody has a different dieting history. Everybody has different cravings, has different emotional eating patterns that we all have in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, really good question when it comes to those cookie cutter programs.
Yeah. Why do you think people keep or put weight back on after a diet?
Yeah, so I guess one of the reasons I already touched on, in the sense of not having an exit strategy, but literally just going back to how they were eating beforehand. And the other reason, coming back to those physiological cues. So we have to understand that truly our body doesn't actually want us to lose weight. Our body wants us to be a little bit fluffier because its only goal for you is to keep you alive. So your body knows that having that little bit of extra cushion is actually safety for you. You're not going into starvation mode or whatever. So now when you go through a weight loss phase, that is not something your body truly wants at first, because it means you're putting yourself more into danger. It doesn't really know that we have DoorDash and a gazillion supermarkets around us, etc. So it will send you increased hunger signals. It will send you decreased satiation signals. It will actually increase your fat cell production. So then when you do just listen to your intuition, even without the intent of I'm just going to go back to the previous way of eating, but you're just listening, you're just thinking, okay, I've lost the weight now, I'm going to go into an intuitive eating style. Your intuition, at least the first probably 2 months or so, will tell you to eat more than what your body actually needs. And that's why you're putting weight back on. And so this phase is actually it's actually almost more important to have a coach than it is in the weight loss phase. Every now and then I get a client with whom will reach their goal. And when we get to that point, they're like, okay, Lisa, I think I'm good to go out on my own. See you later. I'm like, no, this is the worst time. Please just give me another 2 months. And my goal for you is always that sticks, that you actually keep the weight off, and that after that you can then navigate your own nutrition in the way that you want. So if you ever want to go into a muscle gaining phase, or if you want to do another weight loss phase, or if you just really want to make sure you're maintaining your weight over the holidays, this is what I want you to be able to do on your own after that. But it often takes like several months, sometimes even years, to be completely honest, of coaching to like fully integrate that kind of knowledge.
Yeah, I think I've seen like a lot of my friends that have cut a lot of weight down, and then they blow up even bigger than what they were before.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate when we see that. The second part to that is it goes beyond the physiology and really goes more into a mindset and into identity shifts. Because if we don't work on the identity at the same time as we address habits, we're also going to gain the weight back. What I mean by that is, if you just look at weight loss as in, I'm going to not go out with my friends for the 8 weeks that I'm trying to lose weight, and then after that you go back to going drinking with them twice a week, and you see yourself as the party person or maybe the host whenever people come over, and I'm the person that always gets second, or I'm the person who always finishes the plate, you're not going to stick with those previous changes that you made. So you need to work on, who do I want to become? Not just in the sense of what weight do I want to see on the scale, but more in the sense of what habits does that person have that I'm trying to become slowly. Like, what do they do first thing in the morning? How do they select the food when they go to a restaurant? Do they really drink 3 times per week? And if so, like, do they set themselves a drink limit? Like, all these things we need to think about, and that often goes so much deeper because we need to uncover limiting beliefs, self-sabotage that comes up, maybe even working with mantras, with journaling, incorporating more things like meditation so that we're not stress eating so often. So I think often when people want to approach a fat loss goal or weight loss goal, they just think about it in the sense of physiology, when in fact, I often say my job is actually much more a mental one, or almost like a psychological one. Then it just is like, most people, anybody can type in some numbers and follow some certain numbers or a meal plan for a while, but it is about the adjustments and like really asking the right questions as a coach that allow someone to shift long term, I believe.
I love it that you get into the mindset and actually getting people to transform their daily habits and become a better person than just focusing on one outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so essential because, like, oftentimes people just think of food as fuel, or maybe you just think of food as a source of pleasure, but it's social. We have social pressures, like traveling through all these different countries. Nothing is more apparent to me than food being a cultural thing, a family thing. Like everything, every family, no matter in what country you're at, has different connotations with food. Maybe it's something that your parents always restricted and you were never allowed something sweet. So now when you have had a horrible day at work, the first thing you want to do is compensate with that for that with food, because it's kind of like you raising your middle finger and just being like, F you world, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, just because your parents restricted sweets from you as a child. Perhaps that's one thing. Or maybe you're feeling lonely, you haven't found a partner. Actually, all that you want is start a family, and that's why you eat a pint of ice cream every single day on the couch. Or, like the food is so much more than just following something that's healthy or not healthy. It goes so much deeper, and it's often just a coping mechanism for something else. And so if we get to the bottom of like why that happens, or why you stress eat every Thursday, maybe it's because every Thursday you have a stupid meeting with a certain person that you really don't like. So if we find a different way of coping with that, maybe you can call a friend, or maybe you can actually address that person, talk to them and be like, hey, I don't like it when you do this and that, and you put me in a weird spot. Maybe that need to stress eat on Thursdays goes away. So yeah, it's really, really important to look deeper, because otherwise it really isn't going to stick for very long.
Yeah. How important is exercise when it comes to fat loss?
Well, technically speaking, so going back to the point of calories in, calories out, we can achieve weight loss with just calories, or with just manipulating what you eat. Of course, adding or increasing that calorie deficit through the way of energy expenditure can make it easier, because it might allow you to eat more, and because you're exercising and losing the same weight, or it might allow you to lose the weight a little bit quicker because you're increasing that calorie deficit through energy expenditure. What is more important, though, actually, is that we also start or continue to strength train throughout a weight loss phase, because we technically don't really want to just lose weight. We actually, when people talk about I want to lose weight, they usually mean I want to lose fat. Like, we want to hold on to as much lean mass as possible. That doesn't necessarily, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't really care about looking muscular or being super strong or whatever, I don't care about that. I totally get you, but I also would say that very few people want to look skinny fat at the end of a weight loss phase. And that's exactly what happens is if we just pay attention to calories, we don't pay attention to strength training or don't pay attention to protein intake, we're losing maybe just as much, if not more, lean mass, so muscle mass, as we are losing fat. And that's very not ideal from a health perspective and also from an aesthetic perspective. You're just going to look like a deflated boat instead of like a nicely shaped, toned, so to speak, or defined person that you want to look at the end. So, or want to look like at the end. So strength training or doing any kind of resistance training, this can even just be body weight stuff. So squats, push-ups, sit-ups, etc. But of course, could also be at the gym, could be some functional training. Anything like that is going to help us maintain that lean mass while we're losing body fat and ideally losing almost only body fat and hardly any lean mass. So that also means that we're going to reduce our body fat percentage, because if we're just losing weight, it could actually be that we're ending up with a worse body fat percentage than we started off with, or maybe just the same body fat percentage. But it should be our goal to decrease that body fat percentage, because usually having a higher body fat percentage is associated with more fat around the organs, is associated with poor blood lipid panels and poor cardiovascular health, etc. So our goal should be to have a very healthy body fat percentage. For men, that could be somewhere between, let's say, 10 to 20%. For women, maybe somewhere between 15 to 25% would be like a really nice body fat percentage. But yeah, so exercise is important for that reason. It's also important for hunger regulation, because it actually, while of course if we do a ton of cardio and if we do too much exercise, we might feel ravenous, kind of like a bottomless pit, and like we could just keep on eating forever. That's not the goal. But technically speaking, in most cases, if we do it correctly, exercise will actually help us regulate our appetite better. And to add to that as sort of a third point, exercise, most of the time, I don't know about you, Ryan, but most of the time when people also exercise, they're just generally more motivated to eat better, because they feel like, oh, I've already gotten that, I don't want to undo that hard work. Or you just feel lighter, you have more adrenaline, you're going to sleep better, you're going to just have a better mindset and better mentality about everything, because exercise affects so many things, the hormones and neurotransmitters, etc., in our body. So it's going to make the whole weight loss thing easier. Whereas if you just constantly just think about food and want to manipulate everything through food, it's a little bit harder. I have a few clients, they're just like, I don't want to exercise. All I can get them to do is to aim for a certain number of steps, and sometimes doing something like 50 crunches or so per day. But certain people, they're just like, I don't want to do it. And in that case, I won't say I'm not going to work with you, or you can never lose fat, but we're just going to have to diet a little bit harder. And it's not as pleasant, in my opinion, or as beneficial as if you combine that with exercise.
So, like, in the case of those clients, like, how would you go about, like, their plan then? Because it seems like they're just doing a little bit of body weight exercise and steps. I mean, you have to cut their calorie intake, like, way down compared to somebody who was exercising?
A little bit more. Like, I mean, it's not like way more, but let's just say if someone exercises 3 times per week for an hour, their food intake might be 100 or 200, like, let's just say for a female of my size, roughly, I'm like 130 pounds or so. Of course, it depends. But for me, it might be, if exercising 3 times versus only steps and a couple of crunches, might be 200 calories or so per day that I get to eat more, versus if I didn't, or if I didn't exercise. So I think it comes down to the person. Some people, they're not as much of a foodie as I am. They don't really care about that as much, or they even just say like, I don't really care about eating breakfast. We could just skip that. I'm just going to have a protein shake in the morning, and I'm happy eating fewer calories. So it comes down to individuality, really.
Okay. I like how you take that tailored approach to everybody too, compared to some people that I've talked to, where they think that just one system will work for everybody.
Absolutely not. No.
You started the nutrition coach in life business. What types of services do you provide?
Yeah, so at Nutrition Coaching in Life, obviously nutrition coaching. So as we kind of were going into, we don't do any group coaching programs. It's not like, every 3 months we take in 50 people that all want to lose weight or so. It's really an ongoing coaching. There's a minimum commitment of 3 months, exactly for the reason that I do want people to commit to a longer term process. And that means that once a week we usually have a conversation, but even throughout that once or in between those check-ins, or your coach is available to the client 24/7 via text or email, where I actually encourage people to reach out more often. Like, I really like it when I get a text message from a client saying like, Lisa, I'm going out on date night tomorrow with my husband. We're going to this and that restaurant. Do you have a recommendation? Or Lisa, yesterday was my nephew's birthday. Here's a picture of the cake that I ate. Can you help me estimate the calories for that? Or so I just think like the more accountability people feel and the more they can feel like they're connecting with their coach, the better usually the coaching experience is. And then even also just like reaching out when you have issues, or people say like, oh, I really wanted to binge tonight. I managed to just like chew more gum and had some yogurt for dessert and then was happy with that. But I really, really had the urge. And then I'm like, hey, cool, thanks for sharing that. Can you tell me what was going on throughout your day or so? So that's kind of the coaching service that we have. On top of that, usually like training programs. We have some people that only do training, some people that only do nutrition, and some that do both. So for the training programs, we work with an app where, again, it's either standardized or it's either personalized, or when it comes to training, we actually do offer some standardized programs, meaning I have a library of about 35 programs or so, and just depending on how many times a week someone wants to exercise, what kind of equipment they have. If they want to focus on muscle gain or fat loss, I assign them the program that I find most appropriate for that person. So I think when it comes to exercise, most of the time that's actually fine. With nutrition, that wouldn't work, as we talked about. And then lastly, I have a podcast as well, the Nutrition and Life podcast. And Ryan, I actually started that again, like for the networking reasons, because I wanted to talk with other people as well. I also have some experts on there, so it helps me continue to educate myself as well. I do read research also, but I find it just nicer talking to people about their own research and learning from them directly. And I also started it as a client resource. So if someone's like, oh, Lisa, can you tell me or explain to me more why I should be eating more protein? I know you've said it's quite satiating, etc., but I would love to hear the details. And I can be like, hey, I did this full recording of like 45 minutes of, the exact physiological background, why a protein is so beneficial and how you can hit your protein target. Why don't you listen to this? And if you have other questions, I'll explain even more, that type of thing. And the other reason why I wanted to start my podcast as well was just simply to push myself out of my comfort zone and to continue to grow and learn as an individual. Because just like you, I'm very much into self-development. I love stoicism. I love reading and just learning from other people. And I think one of the best ways that we can keep growing as individuals lifelong is to put ourselves into slightly uncomfortable situations where we just need to overcome something. And I started the podcast, I think, almost 3 years ago. And I now when I listen to some of my first episodes, I cringe, and I'm probably gonna cringe about this episode in half a year's time as well. But I don't know how you feel about your own progress and journey, but it's just nice when you have had a recording where you're like, oh, I think I actually did quite okay here. And I hope I provided some value to people on this.
That was the first thing I kind of had to talk to myself into, because when I first started, I was just like, I kind of got thrown in here and I did not want to do it, but I forced myself to do it, to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of fear of public speaking and everything, but I feel like I'm getting better, but I had to keep telling myself, you're doing it to add value.
Absolutely. Like if you can see a bigger picture, if you can find something outside of yourself why you're doing it, I think that's so helpful. And again, like there's a transfer from this over to weight loss. If you have a bigger reason than just vanity to lose weight, it's going to go a longer way. Like let's say you're an overweight parent and you might have had a doctor's checkup and they're telling you your cholesterol is high and you should take action, or maybe you should start exercising a little bit more. Thinking about like what sort of role model you want to be for your parent, for your kids, what sort of you parent you want to be in 20 years time. How active do you want to be? Or do you want to live in an assisted living facility at the age of 65, or would you rather be independent and active and self-sufficient at 85 still? Like having those bigger, longer term reasons, I think are so important when we're setting ourselves any goal, because it takes away from that immediate gratification in our ego and puts it into a much bigger perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What's some of the biggest challenges your clients seem to face?
Yeah, I would say oftentimes it's just their environment, which is not set up in a supportive way. And it's unfortunate. Well, it's not unfortunate, but I mean, we can't force other people to change with us. And we should never try to force other people to change with us. So often people say, oh, my partner brings home pizza now every second day that he knows that I'm trying to lose weight. This is so unfair. I keep craving, or I keep giving in. First of all, we all need to take full accountability and ownership of our own actions. No one's forcing food into your mouth. Yes, it might be way, way more tempting if he brings home your favorite pizza, but it's still up to you whether you put that in your mouth or not. Secondly, communication goes a really long way. So if you just say, hey, honey, I actually want to focus a little bit on my health. I'm trying to be better. You can absolutely order pizza for yourself. I would be so grateful if you could give me a heads up, and I'll just go out and, sit on the porch with the dog for a little bit or go for a walk while you eat, because it's so tempting to me, or whatever it is. So not shaming other people for their behavior, but just saying like, I would really appreciate if you would encourage me or would help me, support me in that way. Because sometimes subconsciously what comes up for other people around us is that they then feel that they're not good enough. They then feel that, okay, she's losing weight now. That means if she, achieves her bikini body, I'm not going to be good enough anymore. So reassuring your partner that they're perfect just the way that they are, but you're doing this change for yourself is really important. Or even with your kids when they're like, Mom, I want you to play with me, but you're trying to do your home workout program there for 20 minutes, just saying to them, hey, I'm going to take care of myself for these 20 minutes. Can you keep doing your homework? I'm going to check on your homework and play with you afterwards. Mom's going to be in a much better mood if she gets her workout in. They're probably going to understand that, and they will see that and recognize that and remember that in 10, 20 years time, that you made yourself a priority, which is so important. So I think just having those more honest conversations and really setting your environment, like literally speaking, also up for more success is really helpful. So that means maybe not keeping the cookies on the counter, but putting out fresh fruit, and maybe not having the ice cream being the first thing when you open up the freezer, but maybe some frozen vegetables, and the ice cream is a little bit deeper down. You need to dig for that. Or maybe also auditing your social media that you're consuming, and not just having all kinds of favorite restaurants, takeaways, or unrealistic weight loss challenges, but some people that are actually motivating, inspiring, and just auditing what you allow into your mind that way as well. So I think there's a lot of things that we underestimate play a really big role, but the easier we can make it for ourselves to stick with any habit, the less friction we can have, the better. Because I mean, you can't complain that it's hard to lose weight if you constantly run around with like a cake in your hand. Like, obviously, why are you making it so hard on yourself? Just get rid of the cake and put that in the back of the shelf or the cupboard, and allow yourself to look at the cake once a week, have half of the slice of the cake, and you're happy.
That's what I mean. If you could knock it down to moderation a little bit and moderate yourself a little bit, and maybe
That's
work a
it.
little bit harder on certain days, then you could have the pizza or the cake
Exactly.
one day out of the week.
That's it exactly, because it comes down to the things that we do most of the time. And my philosophy truly is like that 80, 90 sort of percent of good quality foods, high quality foods, nourishing foods, foods that put more micronutrients and vitamins into our body. And then 10-20% of the time you can allow yourself something fun. So or something that you consider a bit of a treat. So I 100% agree with you on that. And it's actually better to aim to do that, to aim to have a piece of cake or so from time to time, because if you completely restrict it, maybe then when you do have access to it, you're going to go bonkers because you're like, oh, I never have that. I'm going to have the whole pizza, or I will have 3 slices of cake because I never have it. Whereas if you have that on a weekly basis, like a slice or so, you're like, that's okay. I can have another one next Friday.
Yeah, I learned that working with athletes during weight cutting time. That hey, just let's work on some of your little weaknesses first. You don't have to go get rid of everything at once. Let's moderate you just a little bit as we wean you off.
A really, really good strategy. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, because if not, they went bonkers at certain points.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
What kind of training frequency and type is the best?
Well, that's again a tricky question, or a trick question, you could also say, because there is no one size fits all for that either. I think for me, the most important tip is just that it has to be something that's sustainable for you. So clearly, as I mentioned earlier, those people that said to me, I don't want to do any training, they determine for themselves it's not something they ever want to do. With other people, of course, after having a conversation with some of these people, I'm able to get them to start off with a 20-minute workout once a week. And then we increase that to 2 20-minute workouts, and then maybe to 3 20-minute workouts, and then maybe to 3 30-minute workouts. So building on that so that, again, it feels sustainable. And I would say, though, optimally speaking, or ideally speaking, we should all be doing some sort of resistance training, like 3 to maybe 5 times per week, even somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes even. I think that would be, if someone's asking for the optimal split, that would be what I would say, on top of being somewhat active throughout the day. So still trying to get your maybe 8 to 10,000 steps per day. Maybe if you have even more time on top of that, like 1 or 2 light cardio sessions or interval sessions or something like that, or even just going for a hike. That would be like an ideal thing. But again, we don't want to talk about optimal if it's not practical for the individual. So if someone is not doing anything, I'm not going to tell them to do 3 resistance training sessions, 8,000 steps a day, 2 cardio sessions, on top of that, working on their nutrition. Or if it's a busy mom that has 20 minutes at lunch, I would rather she does 20 minutes at lunch than no, you need to go to the gym, and it needs to be at least an hour, and it needs to be in the afternoon, because that's technically when, I don't know, your cortisol is high, or like whatever it is. So like, in my opinion, practical always beats optimal, because there's no point of me giving someone an ideal plan if they can't execute it, or if they can't execute it consistently. That's only going to lead to a mindset of like, I'm failing at this, I'm not good at this, I can't stick with this. And that's really not what I want to do. I want to encourage people.
Yeah, that's kind of a great way to look at it, is, hey, start out small and build up as we go. We got to make sure you're consistent with everything.
Absolutely.
How can someone learn to periodize their training or their nutrition?
So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit what I mentioned earlier too, with regards to having a plan after the plan. So periodizing your nutrition simply means to set a specific timeline for your weight loss, not just saying, I want to lose weight, or I want to lose 50 pounds, however long that takes, because then you might be stuck in that whole weight loss mentality for a year, and that's possibly or probably too long. Maybe you want to break that up in a few segments with some realistic breaks in between. Or more importantly, periodizing means having that reverse diet afterwards, and knowing for how long it will take you to restore that metabolic function or restore that hormonal health. It can also be applied to, and should also be applied to, muscle gaining phases, as opposed to just saying, I'm just going to eat more because I want to gain muscle. Maybe thinking about, okay, how much do you actually want to gain? How long should that take? And then, like, what are you doing afterwards? Do you want to strip down some of the little bit of extra fat that you possibly have gained throughout? Do you just like, like having a specific plan? So we want to think about it, because if you talked about a competitor earlier, and generally speaking, someone who is a normal population, who is not a competitor, should still think about their nutrition and training sort of in a similar way, in the sense of there needs to be an end date to this. And let's just say for many people, something like, I'm going to do a little bit of a weight loss phase in the spring. Then over the summer, I will actually go into a maintenance phase, because I love being social, love going to barbecues. There's the 4th of July. There's other things where we might indulge a little bit, or like want to not be in a calorie deficit. And then, you know what, actually, I feel like I could use a little bit more muscle definition in my arms, and I've been wanting to put on a bit more of a glute definition as well. So I'm going to go into a muscle building phase over the winter, starting in September until January or whatever. That strategy is really helpful for general population as well, not just competitors, because it also gives you goals outside of just weight, and it makes nutrition about more than just, let's say, I need to look good for a wedding, or I need to look good for my daughter's graduation or something like that. So we ideally want to plan our year out and kind of coordinate that together with your training and with your nutrition at the same time.
Okay. How important has personal development and upgrading your mindset been for you on your journey?
Well, I mean, as I've alluded to here a few times with regards to my clients as well, I mean, I've gone through similar struggles where I have had to leave parts of my own identity, my old identity behind, if I wanted to make progress. And I actually, before even becoming a full-time nutrition coach, I fell in love with stoicism, or just personal development. And I used to think I don't like reading. And I just realized at some point, I don't like reading boring books. Like, for me, novels and that stuff has never interested me. Like, to anybody listening who loves novels, please continue reading them. They're awesome. But for me, it was just like a story. I'd rather watch a movie. And then I came across a podcast that was talking about personal development, and they recommended a book. So I bought this book, and it was called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And it was like, oh, this is amazing. This is actually giving me like practical tools for life, and then led me to another book and to another book. And now I just, I don't take the time to read a ton in the sense of quantity, but every morning I make it a goal to read somewhere between 5 to 10 pages. And that doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of time, but it's like consistency that allows me to start off my day with the right mindset. And before I go to sleep, I do a meditation, and that's also like minimum of 5 minutes. And if I'm having a good day, 20 minutes. And so for some people that meditate like an hour, so that also doesn't sound like a lot, but I'd rather do 5 minutes every day consistently than an hour twice a week. I think that's much more beneficial for me anyway. So without personal development work, without the mindset work, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be able to coach my clients the way that I do. And so for me, it's everything.
I love that you have that routine down and just consistently show up for it. On to my next question, which you already kind of touched on, is what is one book you'd recommend for personal development?
Yeah, so that Essentialism is definitely a good one that I would recommend. I also love almost all books by Ryan Holiday. So he's kind of like someone who's made Stoicism popular in modern times. And for example, one book which is called The Daily Stoic, or another one which is called The Obstacle is the Way. Really highly recommended, just kind of talking about how hard things make us into better people. So yeah, I would recommend all of his books.
Awesome. What are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short term, I don't know if that's so much of a goal, but I'm going to Europe next week to spend time with my family, who still all live in Germany, and I'll be traveling to Scotland and Montenegro, so 2 new countries to add to my list within that trip as well. But my goal throughout that, honestly, Ryan, is just to spend quality time with my family. I don't always have the best connection or relationship with all of them. So that's a challenge in itself, but I know that it's important because we don't have unlimited time here on this earth. And I think everybody probably, or most people as they age, they realize that they need to put effort into relationships. So it's going to be my goal for that short-term trip to be present, to be open and accepting, and know that challenges in that way are also for a good thing. And long-term goals, I do want to establish like sort of a more of a stable base, because traveling does get exhausting sometimes. And so I hope that I can extend this visa here in Bolivia, and beyond that, just continuing to grow my ability as a podcaster, as a coach, to continue to serve people and help people enjoy their lives all over the globe in a body that they love.
Awesome. I love that goal. How can people get a hold of you?
So as you mentioned, my business is called Nutrition Coaching and Life. That's the same name for our website. I have the same name on Instagram, which is the platform where I'm most active on. The same name on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and my podcast is the Nutrition and Life podcast. Anybody who's listening, who's enjoying this chat, I'd love to just receive a message where whatever platform you like, saying that you heard Ryan and my chat, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Or if you have any questions about it, please just let me know.
Awesome. Is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to talk about?
No, I think I just want to encourage people to not settle for mediocrity, because I think so often we have the feeling that our not so enjoyable life is normal, and because it's normal, we should settle for it. But I think anybody listening, literally anybody, deserves to live a life that they enjoy, and deserves to tap into something that's way beyond mediocrity. So don't settle would be my last advice.
Great message. Final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
I guess that brought me nicely from my book recommendation, The Obstacle is the Way. I would say whenever adversity occurs, of course, the first thing we want to go into is a sort of pity mode and thinking this is going to last forever. But it's really important to note and to realize that actually most growth, most amazing people, most success actually comes out of periods of adversity. So almost any coach will tell you, like, they're a coach now because they had their own struggles, or whenever someone's business failed, they start a new business, and maybe that's even better, or you learn something out of a failed relationship. I think there's so much growth out of mistakes or adversity to come if you're open and realize or work on the mistakes, quote unquote mistakes that you've made, because mistakes are only really mistakes if you keep repeating them. But if you learn from them, it's just a stepping stone to something bigger. So adversity truly is just an opportunity in disguise.
Great advice. Lisa, I want to thank you for coming on here today and sharing your insight with all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a true blast chatting with you, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.